Hi everyone, welcome back to Spirit Lounge. Hope you guys are doing well. My camera is a little bit bright today. Can't seem to sort that out, but hopefully it's not too bright. And the light above is not glimmering from the top of my head too much, so I'll be in the top corner anyway for most of this, so you won't be able to see too much. So okay, this is a continuation of the Nag Hammadi Scriptures. The next chapter we're going to go through is the origin of the world. This repeats a lot of what we've already covered in previous chapters. You'll find with the Nag Hammadi Scriptures a lot of the tractates and the texts that they interpret that have been translated go over the same story. And remember, I feel it's all a metaphorical story, so don't take it in its literal sense. But it applies to the movement of life in this universe, which manifests the abyss, the darkness, the light, the above and below spectrums that these stories depict. And we manifest our own demiurge, we manifest our own demons by feeding the darker frequencies of ourselves, and we create these entities ourselves, and then we attach to them with our free will. I think these are metaphorical. I'm going to, after I finish the book, summarize all this into my own way and in my own presentation, if you like, and give you interpretation of that. So let's crack on with this, no further ado. So switch on to the presentation now. Okay, so this is the Nag Hammadi Scriptures, the origin of the world. So it goes through. It's the fifth tractate, and it's a kind of an essay. It's a discussion, a narrative between one person and another. It doesn't say exactly who. It talks about the creation of the world and the formation of humankind, which is very similar to what we've talked about already. You'll recognize everything in here. Nothing will be new. So I'm not going to go into too much translation of my own because we've gone through that in previous videos. It's another Gnostic Christian view again. It follows the saga of Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, or the creation of. And also the Adam and the Eve, and the formation of the rest of humanity from what is known as Adam and Eve, and the various aspects of gnosis, which we've touched on. It doesn't touch on it too much in this chapter, but it does. It kind of blends the other script text together, which it has. Anything that we've covered to date is kind of blended in this chapter. So I went through it, and I have to say. Continuing to go through the same story over and over again does get tiresome, and some of it is very established religious doctrine in its nature, and I don't resonate with it. So I struggle with this chapter quite a bit, and it goes into the uses of metaphors within Egypt at the time. So let's get straight into this. Okay, the first chapter, in the beginning. It says, gods of the world and people say nothing existed before chaos. The chaos is the abyss, the demiurge realm, the stuff below, the waters, which are above, and the reflection, if you remember, which was the eons looking down upon the abyss, are all wrong. Here is the proof. Chaos comes from shadow. And what that shadow is, as we've discussed, is a shadow of light. So the light was shining down, and it created a shadow on the abyss. So the abyss is the shadow of the light, and therefore it casts a shadow, and that from which comes from there is the demiurge, the archons, the various children of the demiurge, which this goes into. Live in light or exist in shadow. Chaos came after what was in the beginning, of course. So the origin of Sophia and the powers of the world. After the world of immortals was brought to completion out of the infinite, a being, Sophia, flowed from pistis, which is wisdom and faith. So Sophia means wisdom, pistis is faith. These are attributes of the divine, remember. All attributes are extractions of the divine. So these eons, I believe, are extracts of the divine itself. I don't believe they're real eons. Expressed to resemble the first light. This being came to be between the immortals and what came after them. So that is effectively saying Sophia came and instigated something that created a separation. So there was the divine itself, these eons, Sophia, Pistis, and Sophia created something, a veil beneath, and they created the darkness, which then created a veil beneath the darkness and the light, between the darkness and the light, rather. Sophia served as a veil separating humanity from things above. The shadow has been called darkness, a power set over the darkness. Call the shadow limitless chaos. From it, every sort of deity emerged. Shadow sensed that there was one stronger. It became jealous, and when it became pregnant by itself, so basically it gestated form from itself. So the demiurge gestated archontic and other forms from itself. So in other words, it manifested from itself. It gave birth to envy, turned out to be an aborted fetus. So the demiurge, its first image was an aborted fetus, because it came out of what Sophia decided to emanate, decided to create something like in an imitation of the divine. Obviously that was not something she could do, and she created this abyss, this darkness realm in which this demiurge manifests, if we recall. And the image I placed it in a video before. Without any spirit in it, the demiurge Yaldabaoth, which Yaldabaoth means child of chaos, which is the name of the manifestation given to the manifestation called the demiurge. The wrath came, was cast into the region of chaos. Since that day, a watery substance has been visible. A shadow flowed out. Matter did not come out of chaos. It was in chaos. We are in the realm of matter. We live in a chaotic world. Water is seen as the foundation of matter, or the water was seen as the fluid that was within the darkness, and the light was looking through that water onto the darkness. Okay, the appearance of Yaldabaoth. So again, you'll recognize all of this. We've gone through this before many times. After Pistis, Sophia, wisdom and faith, appeared over the chaotic matter. So she looked over what she had created, or what it had created. Chaos is all limitless darkness and unfathomable water. Pistis saw what came into being was disturbed. What was created fled to her. So the demiurge saw the eon, Pistis Sophia, and started to flee to it. Pistis then blew into its face, and sent it into the abyss below. Pistis caused this thing, so that the Pistis Sophia was the cause of this thing. He tried to create the likeness of the divine, and it decided to direct the demiurge to rule over matter and all of its powers within the abyss. And out of that manifested further archons out of those abyss, the waters of the abyss, and they were like lions, lion-faced, androgynous beings. Sorry, get my teeth in, but were very ignorant. Androgynous means they were neither male nor female; they were a bit of both, sexless, in other words. When Pistis Sophia saw him moving into the depth of the waters, she said to him, "Young man, move over here." She was calling to Yaldabaoth, this aborted fetus-looking being that she'd named Yaldabaoth, and moved it into the heavens that she'd created, or rather the formation of what she'd created. Since then, the faculty of speech has come to expression. So in other words, she spoke, and therefore speech was formed. Yaldabaoth is ignorant of the power of Pistis, didn't understand what was looking at him, what was speaking to it. He did not see her face. After Yaldabaoth assumed authority over matter, Pistis Sophia withdrew up to her light. Okay, Yaldabaoth creates heaven and earth and produces sons. The ruler saw his greatness. This is Yaldabaoth, the demiurge. He saw himself and nothing else. He thought that only he existed. He then separated. He saw the watery realm that he was in, and then decided to separate the watery substance from the dry substance. He created for himself a dwelling place and called it heaven. So he decided to create a paradise within this realm. From matter, he created a footstool and he called it earth. According to his nature, so he made earth into a nature of his own, which is a distortion, a realm of ignorance and loss. And he created androgynous beings. These were the archons. And also these were the children that he created. So he decided to create not only the archons to rule, those 7 archons, the seven heavens. He created children. He decided to create beings of his own kind. And so the first one, he cooed to the first being, and the child opened its eyes and called him Yao. And the second child, he cooed into him and called him Eloi. And the third child, he called him Astapheos. So it's interesting that the word cooed was used, because we tend to use that word, don't we? Cooey or cuckoo, or we say that to children ourselves. It's interesting how we use that same word. So he essentially created 3 children in his own appearance and his own likeness. The 7 heavens of chaos. So the 7 androgynous beings, these are the archons that were created earlier, that came out of the manifestation with the demiurge, which manifested these archons to rule. These sexless 7 androgynous beings appeared in chaos. They had masculine and feminine names. But there were 7, but they had masculine and feminine cause of creating 14. So Yaldabaoth was names of Yaldabaoth. So Yao was mastery, Sabaoth was divinity, Adneos was kingship, Elois was envy, Arois is wealth, and Astapheos is Sophia. So they were the 7 powers, 7th heavens, androgynous in accordance with the immortal pattern that existed before them. And that basically means the above is neither male or female, it just is. It's just a force of love and light of the divine. It doesn't have masculine, feminine, it is all. So he tried to create the same thing in these archons and within the children that they manifested, these forms. And then it said, and will or pistis, likeness from the beginning might have power to the end. So they manifested these things to have power till the end of that time or the age. There were beautiful heavens, all 7, dwelling places for each of the sons, all 7 of those sons, Yao, Sabaoth, Adnois, Elois, Arois, and Astapheos. I hope I'm saying these right. Each son has thrones, mansions, temples, chariots, virgin spirits, armies of angelic and archangelic powers. So in other words, exactly what they were perceiving was above, they tried to manifest below. As above, so below. Yaldabaoth boasts that he is God. The chief creator exalted himself, Yaldabaoth. Glorified by the whole army of angels, he said, I am God and there is no other but me. Therefore he sinned. Pistis became angry. Sophia Pistis became angry and called out from above, you are wrong, Samael, which means blind God. An enlightened immortal exists before you, and you will appear within the forms you have shaped. So this is forecasting an ascended being will come, i.e. the spirit will form. The human will trample upon you. Your work will come to an end. From truth will be dissolved. You will cease to be like it never was. She revealed her likeness of her greatness in the waters, and that was the light between the chaos above and the chaos below and the light above. So what does she mean here? She was forecasting there that there's these beings that were being formed, these shapes and forms, that the divine light was going to come into them, and that they would become enlightened, and the human will trample upon you. So the human that was being created would eventually have the divine spark put within it, and that would become enlightened and trample upon everything that was created. Okay, Sabaoth praises Pistis. Sabaoth, remember, there was one of the sons that had one of the heavens, was seeing this vision of Sophia Pistis shout down. We talked about this before. The son of Yaldabaoth heard the voice of Pistis. He sang songs of praise. He condemned his father Yaldabaoth, and she told them about the immortal human. So Pistis Sophia pointed down at Sabaoth and poured over him the light from her light. He received authority over those 7 realms and was called the Lord of Powers. He then hated his father and the mother, who was the abyss. So the father was Yaldabaoth, and the mother, from which she was manifest, was the abyss below. She sent 3 more angels to assist him, and he might dwell above the 12 masculine and feminine of the 6 sons of Yaldabaoth, the remaining six sons. And there were 12, the 12 masculine and feminine, so that was the way of 12. They were gods of chaos. He occupied a place of rest because of his repentance. So in other words, he was given an 8th heaven of what they would deem as rest, because he discovered the spirit and realized what he should be. Zoe then passed on the daughter Zoe. Sophia passed on the daughter Zoe to then work with apparently Sabaoth and teach him about the heaven above. Okay, Sabaoth creates a congregation of angels, Israel, and Jesus. Again, I don't resonate with much of this chapter because I believe it's indoctrinated dogma from biblical, human translated scripture. So a lot of this I don't translate, and I'd struggle wanting to translate it, but I did it anyway. I offered it to you as it was read. Sabaoth, he created a congregation of angels, like the congregation of the 8th heaven. Created a firstborn called Israel, the person who sees God. He created another being called Jesus Christ, who is like the Savior above in the 8th heaven. And he sat on the right side of Sabaoth, left the Virgin of the Holy Spirit, and on the left was the Virgin of the Holy Spirit. Sabaoth sits on a throne covered by a great light cloud. Zoe taught him about all these things in the 8th heaven. His reign might last until the end. Pistis Sophia moved away from the darkness and put him on her right, and she put the chief creator on her left, and therefore there was justice and injustice. This is all imagery and metaphor for me. And even the chariot that Sabaoth had created for them had cherubs at the front. And you can see it on a lot of the chapels, this image that is painted. Okay, Yaldabaoth produced death. Yaldabaoth was jealous of what had been manifest there, with Sabaoth being given governance over what was his realms, and he engendered death from his own death, so he effectively gave death to the realm that Sabaoth was in. Death was established over the 6th heaven, where Sabaoth was. Death was androgynous. He had sex with himself, in other words. Again, Yaldabaoth, all these beings are manifesting from themselves, because they are androgynous beings, so anything they manifest, they impregnate and manifest and give birth to from themselves. So this is why it's constantly saying they had sex with themselves, because they were having sex with something that they already were and that they had manifest from themselves. He has sex with himself and produced 7 males: envy, wrath, tears, sighs, grief, lament, and tearful groans. Females of anger, pain, lust, sighs, curses, bitterness, and strife. So there's 14. They all had sex with each other and conceived 7 each, with 49 in total androgynous demons. And they're all named in the Book of Solomon, apparently. Sabaoth created 7 gods, androgynous powers, So Sabaoth decided to create an opposing set of androgynous powers of good. So they were one not of jealousy, one of blessedness, one of joyful, one of truth, one who was not envious, one who was beloved, and one was faithful. Yaldabaoth is distressed about his mistake. So the creator Yaldabaoth saw Pistis, saw Sophia Pistis. He was deeply distressed by this image that he was seeing. He knew she was the one who gave him his name. He was ashamed. When he knew this, he knew that there was an enlightened being that existed before him. He was disturbed. He was a fool. He said, he then decided to rebel even further. He said, if anything existed before me, let it appear so that we may see its light. Light shone, and then light emanated from above and shone through the entire abyss and through the earth. This is where his mistake was, that he invited the light, and then the light shone through the entire abyss, through the earth, therefore giving it enlightenment, therefore spreading the divine through it, which was before that all darkness and abyss. Okay, Adam of light shines forth, and then he saw the light and was amazed. And so this is Yaldabaoth, saw the light that was emanating down. He was amazed and very much ashamed again. The light appeared in human likeness. No one saw it except the chief creator and the forethought, the realm of good. Its light was visible to all powers. So the light appeared, but the power of that light was visible to all powers. It disturbed everything that it touched. Since then, Adam was called Adam of light. So the light within Adam was called Adam of light, and which meant enlightened person of blood. So once the spirit was put into Adam and the light shone through, the person of blood and physical matter became the enlightened person of blood. The earth was called Adamas, and the water was purified by the Pistis Sophia, and I think that's where it comes to where you go to the water to have that ritual performed, where you're given blessings from the water. So Eros was another child of chaos and was extremely handsome. So this is where this whole chapter starts to lose me. It talks about multiple beings. It talks about lust. It talks about all these beings wanted to have sex with each other and manifesting things. So I feel that this is a kind of an aberration, this story. It starts to become more abhorrent in its nature, which for me is, I think, an overlay of those that were writing these scriptures, and overlaying too much of themselves on this. And so it's very metaphorical. I do honestly feel this is metaphorical, because I don't personally resonate with this chapter much at all. Another child is extremely handsome. Angels fell in love with this handsome Eros. They wanted to have sex with this Eros. And eventually they did, because Eros dispersed in all the creatures that were manifest in the chaos. Eros appeared in the middle of the light and the darkness, so between the veil, and intercourse was had. And this was not physical, this was where light entered Eros as an act. And this is where, as Eros was within all that was created within chaos, sexual desire was then sprouted within everything on earth, in other words. Okay, the creation of paradise. Then justice created paradise. Justice was one of the 7 children of Sabaoth. Desire dwells in the middle of the beautiful stately trees. The tree of life is eternal, and it gave him immortality to the souls of the holy people. Next to it, the tree of knowledge, endowed with the powers of God. I stripped this chapter down only to what I thought was important. So in the realm of paradise, justice created. There were trees, and within those there was a tree of life, and there was a tree of knowledge, which was a metaphor for trees. and they were the access to greater wisdom by those the humans that were then all had light penetrated within them. And after that, there was the similar story talking about the creation of plants, animals, and heavenly bodies, which we didn't put into this video, and you feel free to read that yourselves. The creation of humankind. Is this being Adam within Eve, not God who ruined our work? So these are the archons come around Adam and say, who is this being? This God who has ruined our work. They looked at within them, they saw Eve within, and Adam and Eve was together. The spirit was in Adam. Yes. So they said, yes, it is. Let's create a human being out of earth in the image of our body and our likeness. So they decided to create another being to serve us, so that Adam would fall in love with this being and no longer ruin their work, and any children manifest from this being would be their slaves. They created humanity in ignorance. Sophia Zoe created her own human being first, so he might tell the model bodies of the authorities how to despise them. So this was the spark of the divine within Adam, and then another being of Zoe appearing as a being. Sophia then dropped into a female body, shaped like the mother, and that was the Virgin Mother. And Greeks call her Hermaphrodite, and Hebrews call her the Eve of life. Sorry about that. My phone keeps going off even though I put it on silence. Okay. Songs of Eve. Eve is the first virgin. She gave birth to the first child without a man. What this effectively means, remember, Eve is the female of the spirit. Eve is called the spirit itself, and the spirit is seen as female. And so Eve went into the spirit, as the spirit light entered Adam. So it gave birth to Adam as a spiritual being the first man, the first child of spirit without procreation. Souls who were going to enter the modeled bodies, the holy voice said, flourish and multiply, rule over all creatures. These souls were taken captive in accordance with their destinies. What this means is that as beings started to be formed in the manifest abyss of the humans, the divine spirit was entering them all, and that was the spark of the divine. And the voice from above was saying, go flourish and rule over all creatures, which means not dominate creatures, not dominate life. It means make the spirit rule over the physical material bodies that these icons and demiurge had created. That's what that statement means. It doesn't mean we lord over animals and plant life and insect life and other life that is not human. What it means is that the spirit was cascaded out to overcome the physical humanness of what was manifest, i.e. physical forms to become enlightened forms, perfect forms. The souls were captured in accordance to their destinies, where what this means is that the body, the form would hold your spirit captive. If you identify with a material body and only material body, you will hold it. Your destiny is your own destiny, your own fate, your own karma. If you manifest only with the body, you will be trapped by the body. If you manifest with your psychical self, you'll manifest above. If you then emanate and resonate even higher to the spiritual self, this is where you start to become what's known as the perfect being. Okay, the rulers of the world mold Adam. So this is going back a bit, so it goes forward and then goes back. He talks about Adam here now. The chief created voices opinion about humankind to those who were with him. So he looked at the archons, and then they ejaculated into the earth. Each of the archons and the demiurge ejaculated onto this footstool called earth. There's a lot of sexual references in this chapter. They ejaculated semen, actually, that's what it really says, into the earth, and the archons formed humanity. So in other words, they sprung humanity out of the earth. Formed humanity. The person appeared like the one before, person of soul. So there was a being who emanated but had a soul but not a spirit, and they called it Adam. The chief creator, the demiurge, then looked upon this being who couldn't move, had no spirit, and then left the being alone within the realm that it was created. And on the 40th day of that realm, the Sophia Zoe came and blew the breath into Adam, and he started to move. The 7 rulers saw this and were troubled, and they grabbed him. And the chief ruler said, "Who are you? Where have you come from?" So they saw the breath of Zoe within, and so what is this female force that's within Adam? And when they saw Adam could not stand, because the spirit still wasn't within him yet, they put him in paradise and withdrew. So they put him within the heavens that they had created for themselves. Eve gives Adam life. Eve is the spirit, remember. So Sophia sent Zoe, called Eve, the spirit, to raise Adam so that he would engender children and be vessels of light. She said Adam lived after the breath of the spirit was blown into Adam. And Adam saw her and said, "You will be called the mother of the living." So he saw Zoe, or Eve. And because that was the breath of life to him, he called her the mother of the living. So Eve became the mother of humanity as well. The powers rape earthly Eve. Yet again, more distortion. It goes on in this chapter. You should read it. Their model body was living. So they saw Adam and thought it was alive. It was animated by the spirit. And they saw Eve speaking, the spirit form of Eve speaking with him, which because the Zoe Eve had taken a form. "Who is this enlightened woman? Let's seize her and ejaculate our semen into her, so that she may be unclean. Her children will then serve us." Eve then laughed. She left something of her spirit light within Adam, as we mentioned. She blew the spirit into him, and he came live. They went to Adam. They saw the female spirit within him. They thought this was the true Eve. So then they ejaculated upon her, on Adam, and they defiled the seal of her voice. They did not know they defiled their own body and likeness in all these ways. So there's a lot of defilement, a lot of self-raping in all of these chapters. Okay, Eve bears children of the powers. She became pregnant, so the first defilement. So Eve, if you remember the previous chapters, Eve became a tree, but then left a spiritless body behind that they thought was Eve, and then they defiled this body. And from that came Abel, which was the offspring of the defilement, and then many other children, as we know, Cain, Benonullah, and many others. The model bodies of the authorities might contain the light. The first Adam of light is spiritual and appeared on the first day. The second Adam is psychical and appeared on the 6th day. And the third Adam is earthly, of law, and appeared on the 8th day, called Sunday. Offspring of Adam filled the earth. The trees of paradise and the beast. They hatched a plot. They saw Adam and Eve. They hatched a plot. They may eat the fruit of every tree. So they put them in the paradise and said, they may eat the fruit of every tree, but not eat from the tree of knowledge. And a beast came to them, the wisest beast, which was the snake, the serpent, and the wisest of all creatures, and said unto Adam and Eve, "Don't be afraid, you will not die. When you eat, your mind will become sober, like God's, and you'll know the difference between good and evil." So it was encouraging them both to eat from the tree of knowledge. We know that story. Okay, the rulers confront Adam and Eve. So the rulers obviously then discovered that Adam and Eve had eaten from the tree of knowledge. And they realized Adam and Eve had broken their commandment. They came with an earthquake. So they came with a roar. "Who told you about the shame with which you clothed yourselves?" So Adam and Eve then clothed themselves with the leaf and hid. Because they discovered the lack of piety. "Unless you ate from the tree," they cursed the instructor. The instructor was a snake. They looked around and saw the serpent. as they realized that they were told the serpent had instructed them to eat. They cursed the woman, so they cursed Eve, and then they cursed all her children. They cursed Adam, and then the earth, and then the fruit on the tree. Everything they created, they cursed. In other words, everything that they had created from themselves, they then cursed. Since then they had known something stronger than they existed. Adam recovered. They, the rulers, gathered and said, "He knows the difference between light and darkness. He may come to despise us. He may come to denounce us. Let's throw him down to earth." So they decided to throw both of them down into the earth plane, which they wanted to shorten the human lifespan by 1,000 years. They then subtracted 10 years, and they cast down that anything on the earth would spend its life in grief and weakness and evil distractions, which is true for many on this earth plane. Okay, phoenixes, water serpents, and the bulls of Egypt. So this is talking about the metaphors of these animals, then how they were used in Egypt, in short. So Sophia Zoe saw the archons had cursed everything on the earth, cursed Adam and Eve, cursed everything that existed, all creatures upon there and all children that were manifest. She chased the rulers from their heavens. So these archons existed in the heavens that the demiurge had manifest for them, or Yaldabaoth. And she pushed them into the sinful world as she pushed them into the earth. So they may dwell as demons upon the earth. She sent a bird, a phoenix, as an image of judgment against those archons upon the earth. And she stated there would be three humans. There were the spiritual, psychical, and the earthly, depending on what you attach to. Kinds of phoenixes. Immortals live 1,000 years. The third will be consumed. So in other words, they were saying those who went to the spiritual self would live 1,000 years. Those who went into the psychical self, kinds of immortals. They were the immortal ones who were the spiritual selves, and the psychical ones which will live 1,000 years, and those earthly ones who attached to the earth, attached to their physical bodies, and were desire-driven, even though the spirit of light was within, they would be consumed by the abyss. The phoenix references as a reference to the angels. The water serpents in Egypt indicate those who go for baptism. So you go to the water because the Sophia light blessed the water, the realm of water from which the abyss was in. And the two bulls in Egypt indicate the mystery of the sun and the moon. I don't know too much about these metaphors. They may be in the Bible, but you could read about Egyptian metaphor if you wish. The world is in error and ignorance. Let us return to the rulers of whom we spoke. So this is kind of the closing the story down, and the next couple of extracts are more important. Let us return to the rulers of whom we spoke. 7 rulers were cast from their heavens, the archons. They created angels, numerous beings, and were demonic. These beings, these angelic beings and non-demonic beings, and these angels, they taught people error, magic, potions, idolatry, which is the worship of idols, bloodshed, temples, and sacrifices. So these are satanic and Luciferian practices, if you know. These are demonic practices, as we commonly call them in our human experience. So these are pretty accurate. All people on earth serve the demons from the creation until the end of the age. And the world was in confusion, ignorance, and in a stupor. Okay, the blessed little innocent spirits and the church. The church is the internal church. The church is our own church. Points about immortal humanity. The multitude of people had come into being. The rulers reigned over it, the archons, kept it in ignorance for a reason. The immortal Father, the divine, brought down the rulers, decided to bring down the rulers of the perdition, which is damnation, and sent the blessed little innocent spirits, who were not strangers to knowledge, the blessed spirits to reveal the pattern of incorruptibility, in other words, the divine, so as to condemn the rulers. So in other words, this breath of the divine grace was sent into all living things, to then become aware, become knowledgeable, to understand the divine, and then share that out and become it, and therefore condemn the archons who were of darkness and the abyss and the demiurge itself. The authorities were jealous of them, so jealous of the divine spirit that was coming and occupying the forms that they had created. And they began to envy the authorities mixed with their semen and with them in order to defile them. So they decided to, anything that had a divine spirit in it, they decided to defile them as well with sexual acts. Again, fornicating with themselves, with the things that they had manifest. But they weren't able to. The spirits appealed in enlightened form in different ways. They came from different realms and revealed their knowledge to the church, internal church. The Saviour made all them one. They are already kings. They are immortal within the mortal, and they will condemn the gods of chaos and their powers. So the ultimate was saying that the Christ message, Christ conscious message, was to bring everyone into unity. The spirit within each of the ignorant forms were to bring them out of ignorance and bring them to the divine. And so they were to know that they are already kings within the realm of the divine, and therefore they would condemn the chaos, the gods, the archons of chaos, who tried to govern and rule within on the earth. Jesus, the Word, which was the emanation of Christ consciousness, sent one for one reason only, to announce what is unknown. So in other words, Yeshua came down, Jesus came down, Isha came down, to tell us about our own divine unity, our divine essence, and that love was all that existed in actuality, to remind us of what we truly are. In other words, to remind us of the spirit, the breath of the divine which came into our form, and us to discover it. There is nothing hidden that is not apparent, and what has not been known will be known. Reveal what is hidden, expose the seven authorities of chaos and their godlessness. Okay. The end of the age. Before the end of age, the whole region will shake. Archons will lament. Death will come. Angels will grieve. So the false angels will grieve for the death of the humans, the false humans, the none without spirit. Demons will weep. They will be disturbed. Kings, they will be disturbed. They will wage war. Kings will wage war against each other, which we do. There's countries, beings, those who rule wage war against each other. Seas will be troubled by war. The sun will darken and the moon will lose its light. Pistis Sophia will drive out the gods of chaos. They will be wiped out through their own injustice. Heavens of chaos will collapse upon one another. The abyss will be overthrown. Okay, light overcomes darkness, the next section. The light will overcome the darkness and banish it, like something that never was. Source of darkness will be dissolved. Deficiency will be pulled out by its root and cast down. Light will withdraw up to its root the glory of the unbegotten, i.e. the non-physical, the spiritual self. Those who have not become perfect in the unbegotten, the Father will receive glory, but will never enter the kingdom realm. All must return to the place where they came from. I'll go into the next and final. Okay, that's the final bit. So what this effectively means is, let's relate it to where we are in our current world today. It's very apt, isn't it? We are in a world which, let's face it, has got such darkness and evil running through it today at this moment, that we could call this an age of where light and dark truly have to emerge, and one will emerge and one age will end. So we are driven to look at ourselves internally and connect to our divine spirit. We must connect to our divine spirit, because that is the only journey that actually matters. Nothing else matters. And to remove the Luciferian, satanic, or the dark influences in this world, we have to go into ourselves and bring out the force of will externally, and then use that to direct our actions, words, thoughts, and intentions in our physical realm, to remove the injustice, the darkness, and the intention and the agendas that are going on in the world today. This is the only way that what this talks about is that the age of darkness will be overcome and will be banished. We are the ones that have to do that. We are given the tools of the divine spirit. We were given the teachings of the many avatars that have come and spread the word of the divine. Krishna, Jesus, Yeshua, Isha, Buddha, name them all. They've all come and left messages for us to stop, to move from within our physical material selves through the psychical self into the spiritual self. And that's what the last few extracts of this chapter are why they're more important than what else was left. And again, the second coming is us. We shouldn't seek it external to us. We are the second coming. We are our own salvation. We are our own inner connection. And to be clothed is for us to rediscover that pleroma that is the divine itself and become spirit. Not just practice and do rituals and virtuous self-righteous practices, but become it in every action, every word, every thought, every decision, every moment of life. Okay, and of course Mahanji, this is talking about how to become and not to practice, and this statement is very important and needs to be repeated constantly. So that is the end of the, go back on the video there, that is the end of the session, so I hope you enjoyed that. Again, it wasn't really resonating with this because it was repeating a lot of things in the past, of past chapters, but this constant ejaculation and defilement and sex with everything was not working for me at all, and I do feel that this Nag Hammadi is actually, it's got essential information in it, but it's metaphorical and it's hidden in stories. I do believe that. So we'll go into the next one on the next video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I just want to say thank you to you all, and God bless, and have a great rest of your day and weekend. Thank you.